At the start of the film, there is a young girl named Sophie, about 10 years old. She used to live in an orphanage because her parents had passed away. Sophie had trouble sleeping and often woke up in the middle of the night. Because of this, she would walk around the orphanage while everyone else was asleep. Like the other kids, Sophie also had a fear. There was an old man who would appear in the darkness and kidnap children. After abducting them, he would kill and eat them. One night, while everyone was asleep, Sophie heard a cat meowing. Since she couldn't sleep, she decided to check it out. She went outside to the balcony and looked to see if any cats had knocked over the trash cans. But then, she saw something strange. A giant hand appeared from behind the building and picked up the trash can. Then, a huge giant appeared from the back of the building. Sophie had seen the giant with her own eyes. The giant saw Sophie too. She was scared when she saw it and quickly rushed back to her bed. But the giant reached through the window, grabbed Sophie, and took her away. This giant used to hide from humans. If it saw a person, it would find a way to cover itself and sneak away. After taking Sophie, the giant stepped into another world, the world of giants. This place was where only giants lived. Sophie noticed that everything in the giant's house was huge, just like the giants themselves. She tried to run away, but the giant told her, "There's no way to escape. You can't leave this place." Frightened by the noise, Sophie realized the giant was old. He picked her up and put her on a frying pan, saying, "I'm so hungry. My hunger is out of control." Sophie was terrified, thinking that the giant was going to eat her. She also heard the laughter of other giants nearby. Sophie asks the old giant, "Are there other giants here too?" The old giant replies, "Yes, there are other giants, and they are all cannibals. They eat the raw flesh of humans. They have no pity for people, and anyone they capture is eaten by them." Hearing this, Sophie becomes even more frightened. She asks the old giant, "Are you going to eat me too?" The old giant responds, "No, I don't eat humans. I'm a vegetarian giant, not a man-eater." This giant only eats tasteless vegetables, but even though the food isn't great, he still refuses to eat humans. This shows that he is a kind and gentle giant. Sophie then asks, "If you don't eat humans, why did you bring me here?" The old giant explains, "You saw me, and you could have told someone about me. That would put my life in danger. If humans knew about us, they would come here and try to destroy all the giants." The old giant explains, "That's why I had to bring you here. Now, you will have to live with me for the rest of your life." Sophie quickly replies, "No, I will escape." But the old giant warns her, "No, don't take the risk of running away. The other giants outside won't show any mercy on you." After saying this, the old giant places Sophie on a board and says, "Rest for a while." But Sophie still has trouble sleeping. Then, she notices the giant taking out big bottles from his bag. Inside these bottles, something was glowing and sparkling. Curious, Sophie asks, "What's in these bottles?" The giant replies, "These are dreams." Sophie responds, "Oh, but they're useless for me because I don't dream. How could I? I have trouble sleeping." The giant then picks up a book that Sophie had with her. It was filled with many stories. The kind old giant starts reading the stories out loud, and slowly, as he reads, Sophie begins to feel sleepy. After this, the old giant takes a bottle and releases some dreams from it. While this happens, Sophie wakes up and notices that the giant is still sleeping. She sees a chance to escape and sneaks out of the house, trying to run away. But soon, she is caught by a huge giant, even bigger than the old giant. Sophie begs the giant, "Please, let me go." But the giant doesn't listen to her and swallows her whole. Suddenly, Sophie wakes up. It was just a nightmare. She turns to the old giant and says, "It was you, wasn't it? I can't sleep or dream anymore. And the dream you gave me was a nightmare." The giant responds, "I had to do it. I wanted to show you how much danger there is outside, so it's safer for you to stay here." The old giant explains to Sophie, "The giants outside are much bigger than me. I'm small and old compared to them." As they are talking, a huge giant enters the room. This giant is truly much larger than the old one. The huge giant walks in and asks the old giant, "Pygmy, who were you talking to?" All the giants called the old giant Pygmy because he was the smallest among them. The old giant replies, "No, I wasn't talking to anyone." Meanwhile, Sophie quickly hides. The bigger giant had a wounded hand and came to the old giant to get it treated. Since the big giant was a cannibal, it smelled a human in the house and started searching around. Sophie, trying to stay hidden, sneaked into the vegetables that the old giant used to eat. The big giant, smelling the vegetables, noticed a strange scent, the smell of a human. Even though the giant had never eaten these vegetables before, it could smell the tempting scent of a human today because Sophie was inside the vegetable. The giant started to eat the vegetable, but the old giant quickly shouted, "Stop! You can't eat that! Have you forgotten that you don't eat vegetables?" The big giant replied, "Ah, yes. How could I forget forget that I don't eat vegetables." It then tossed the vegetable aside, and Sophie was saved. After the big giant left, the old giant had to go somewhere. Sophie asked, "Where are you going?" The old giant replied, "I have some urgent work." Curious, Sophie asked, "What's that urgent work?" At first, the old giant didn't want to tell her, but after Sophie insisted, he revealed, "I'm going to capture dreams." Sophie begged the giant to take her along. At first, the old giant refused because it would be dangerous if the sleeping giants outside woke up and saw her. But after Sophie insisted a lot, the giant finally agreed to take her. When they stepped outside, they saw that the other giants were fast asleep. They tried to quietly pass by, but suddenly, all the giants woke up at the same time. The giant started bothering the old giant, saying, "Pygmy, where are you going?" The old giant replied, "I'm just going to do my job." The giants didn't want him to leave and said, "We don't want you to go to the world of humans. If humans find out about us, our lives will be in danger." They irritated the old giant a lot. Meanwhile, Sophie quickly hid in a vehicle to stay out of sight. To distract the giants, the old giant pointed to the sky and said, "Look, it's cloudy, and it's going to rain." The giants, who were all afraid of water, got scared and stopped bothering the old giant. The giants had an irrational fear of water, so when it started raining, they quickly ran away to hide. Taking advantage of this, the old giant and Sophie left and began climbing up the mountains. As they climbed higher, they passed through the clouds. Sophie looked around and said, "These stars look so beautiful from here." The old giant replied, "I can hear their rhythm too. I can hear the sound of everything in the universe. I can hear ants, insects, and even the stories told by trees. My hearing is so strong that I can listen to the voices of everything in the universe." Sophie, surprised, said, "I don't believe your stories." The old giant smiled and said, "It's true, my dear. You'll have to trust me." Afterwards, they reached a lake with a tall and beautiful tree beside it. The old giant jumped into the water, and Sophie jumped in with him. They swam across the lake and arrived at the other side, which was the world of dreams. In this world, dreams fall from the tree like drops of water. The old giant had come here to collect them. Together, Sophie and the old giant captured many dreams, both good and bad. Once they finished collecting the dreams, they started their journey back. Sophie and the old giant had become good friends and were very happy together. The old giant shared a touching story, saying, "All the giants call me Pygmy, but I feel good thinking about something else. I once met someone who called me the Big Friendly Giant." Sophie smiled and said, "From now on, I will call you the Big Friendly Giant too." After collecting the dreams, they wandered around the city where kids were sleeping in their homes. The Big Friendly Giant sprinkled good dreams on them while they slept, making sure everyone had happy dreams. It showed that he was a kind-hearted giant who brought joy to people's lives, even in their dreams. Sophie asked, "Did your parents tell you about dreams?" The Big Friendly Giant replied, "Giants don't have parents." Curious, Sophie then asked, "How old are you?" The giant responded, "I am as old as the universe itself." This meant that giants were created when the universe was created, but they hid behind walls to stay away from humans. As they started to return, Sophie suddenly remembered, "Where is my blanket?" She had left her blanket in the giant's world. Hearing this, the Big Friendly Giant became worried and said, "I can't take you back now. The other giants have noticed that a human is with me." Then, the Big Friendly Giant revealed to Sophie, "Many years ago, I found a child who was as innocent and sweet as you are." The Big Friendly Giant continued, "He had seen me just like you do. I brought that child into the world of giants, and he taught me how to read. Your worn jacket belonged to that innocent friend of mine, but it was too late when I brought him here, and I don't want you to face the same fate he did, because you're my friend now." Then, the giant decided to leave Sophie behind, but Sophie didn't want him to go. She insisted on going with him. The giant didn't agree at first, so he began to leave her at the orphanage. Not wanting to stay there, Sophie jumped off the balcony, knowing that the Big Friendly Giant would catch her. And he did. This made him realize he had to agree to take her with him, even if he didn't want to. He brought her back into the world of giants, where the other giants were waiting for them. They had heard that the old giant was with a human, and they were all curious about who she was. They followed the scent of Sophie's blanket to find the Big Friendly Giant's house. The giant started breaking things in the Big Friendly Giant's house. To protect Sophie, he burned the blanket that smelled like her. Then, he told all the giants to leave his home. Sophie noticed a photo on the wall. It was a picture of a queen. This gave her an idea. She asked the Big Friendly Giant, "Can you create a dream for the queen? In that dream, show her that there is a world of giants who are dangerous and eat children. If we appear in the dream, she will recognize us." The Big Friendly Giant agreed and made a dream that included all the giants, himself, and Sophie, along with the other missing kids from the city. They moved close to the Queen's palace and sent the dream into her while she was sleeping. In the dream, the Queen saw everything they wanted to show her, including the scary giants. When the Queen woke up, she was frightened because she had just experienced a nightmare. The Queen was scared because she dreamed about giants eating children. She told her attendant about the dream, and the attendant tried to comfort her, saying, "Don't worry, it was just a nightmare." But then she read in the newspaper, "A strange thing has happened. Many kids have gone missing from their homes last night." This matched what the Queen had dreamed. The Queen then commanded, "Draw back the curtains." Sophie stood by the windowsill as the curtains opened. They had planned this part of the dream, and the big friendly giant was included as well. Sophie spoke up, telling the Queen about the big friendly giant. She asked the Queen, "Promise me you won't harm him." When the big friendly giant appeared before the Queen, he bowed respectfully. The Queen kept her promise and agreed not to hurt him. There was also a funny fact about the giants: they couldn't pronounce words correctly. Instead of saying human being, the big friendly giant jumbled the words and called it something else. After that, the Queen welcomed them warmly and offered them a delicious feast. During the meal, they told her everything about the two bigger giants in the giants' world who captured and ate kids and humans. The Queen decided to help them and got her whole army ready. With the big friendly giant, they flew to the giants' world in helicopters. They had a solid plan. When they arrived, they stopped at a strategic spot, ready to take action. The plan was for the big friendly giant to create a dream that would make the bad giants feel guilt and regret for their terrible actions. So, the big friendly giant began to create that special dream. As the big friendly giant went to deliver the dream to the bad giants, he suddenly realized he had forgotten the tool needed to do it at the Queen's palace. It was dangerous to go without that tool, but Sophie bravely took the dream jar to where the sleeping giants were. Just as she was about to break the jar, the leader of the giants woke up. Sophie quickly broke the jar, and the dream was released into the air. The sleeping giants began to feel guilt for their bad actions. However, the giant leader was still waking up and didn't feel any regret. Instead, he attacked Sophie. Just in time, the big friendly giant appeared to protect her, but the giant leader grabbed him because he was much bigger. As the leader tried to hurt the big friendly giant, the Queen's army arrived in helicopters. They quickly captured all the giants and took them to an island in the middle of the sea. Since the giants were afraid of water, they couldn't escape. They were trapped there for life. The Queen threw seeds onto the island so the giants could grow vegetables to eat for the rest of their lives. The giants didn't like the vegetables they had to eat, but they ate them anyway because they had no choice. They had to live on that island forever, eating those vegetables. Meanwhile, Sophie no longer lived in the orphanage. She now lived in the Queen's palace and was very happy there. She could also talk to the big friendly giant many times because he could hear every sound in the universe. Back in the giant's world, the big friendly giant was alone but had grown many other vegetables in addition to the ones on the island. He was content with his life. Every day, Sophie would go to the windowsill and say, "Good morning," to the big friendly giant. He would reply back to her, and that's how this wonderful story came to an end.